have an exciting guest today. His name is Michael Polin. He is an attorney and in the United States, an international business and entertainment attorney. He's an entrepreneur of more than 32 years with investor representation, business dealings, and project deal negotiations. So he's an author and creator of the just released Teach Me International Investing, exciting, e-course, and is getting ready for new e-courses in 21, all under the Teach Me Academy. So he's here today to teach us. Welcome, Michael, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Nika. Nice to meet everybody for the first time. And Peggy said you're a great audience that likes to learn. So I thought, okay, I can maybe help you learn a few things. I have 35 years of international business experience. I've had offices in over 7-8 countries. I've tried 10 cases outside of the United States. So a lot of international experience. And I think what got Peggy interested in me is that she kind of knew my background. And I'm launching a new company, and it's all about international real estate. And in particular, buying international real estate, both of which I do, and I represent people around the world that have done it. And so I think she wanted me to share some wisdom with everybody here. And she knows I'm launching this company, so she's kind of catching me at a really good time. You're catching me at a good time, because in the next 3 weeks, I'm not going to be talking to anybody. It's just we're going to be so busy with the launch. And if you pop your email information in the chat box for me, I'll be happy to get back to you when the launch happens and give you some free stuff that I'm not giving to anybody really, but if it's relationships or affiliates like this, I'll send it out to you. And I think you'll like it, because we're setting up basically training modules, etc., on buying international real estate. That's going to be the focus of the company. But I teach over 200 topics, so it's a lot, and we cover a lot of countries. So I think today, I'll tell you what I found to be the easiest way to do this. If you guys are interested, I kind of give you a background a little bit about what buying international real estate means, and some like key points, some general topics. And then I'm assuming none of you have done it. And if I'm incorrect, just chime in and tell me. Okay, most of my audiences, I think almost 100%, no one's ever done it. So if you have, fantastic, just tell me. And then I can involve you maybe a little different way with some of your experiences. But I'll give you some overlay. And then I just open it up to you for your Q&A, because I think it's easier for you, to learn, and to me to just tell you about topics you may or may not be interested in. Like, what does land title cost in Belize, for example? Does Panama have an escrow? I think things like that. There's a lot of very interesting things to discuss, but I don't want to get too nuanced either, and because we only have like an hour. I don't want to get too nuanced. So I'll leave it open to you guys to ask me questions. I think that's easier for you, maybe better learning experience for you. So if that's okay with everybody, that's how I'd like to just proceed. So let me just take a few minutes out and tell you a little bit of background, and then tell you why I created the company, because it's a brand new company. So like Nika kindly said, I've been running my international law firm for 35 years. So there's not much I haven't seen anywhere in the world. And including I was in China for 30 years. So I get it. I know all the ins and outs of running businesses in different countries. And certainly one of the things I always looked for all these years was real estate. I've always been interested in it. I've always been buying it. I've always been negotiating deals. I've been involved with probably 150 joint ventures around the world. A lot of them had real estate or construction related real estate, buildings, that world involved in some of those deals. I focus now more on the residential side of real estate. So when I'm teaching, I'm focusing you on residential, buying international real estate from a residential point of view. Now that can be condominiums, townhouses, single family homes. It can be any of those things, or construction and development. So there's a lot of that, like in the islands, so the Bahamas and Costa Rica and Belize. There's a lot of construction going on there, where other countries tend to lend themselves more to existing properties, the condos, the townhouses, etc., that are already built. Every country's got its own nuances, and every country has their own laws. They're just, I bring the whole legal and regulatory knowledge to this conversation. So I'm not just a guy that tells you, go, yeah, you can go over here and this is what you can buy. I tell you what you have to look out for. I got to explain to you, what failures look like, because I've seen enough of them, including some of my own. In the last 30 years, I've had enough that I know you don't do these things. Stay away from this, or move away from that country, or don't hire those kind of people. Insider tips, which is exactly what my new company is about, by the way. It's like I teach you the ins and outs. It's a mastermind program. And so, and like I said, 2-3 weeks that'll be launched. And if you're interested, and you tell me you saw me here, I'll definitely give you some free stuff and probably even a discount on the course if you're interested in taking it. So you can just remind me, that you saw me here, and my team will recognize you for that. So I think that I kind of just started learning many years ago about because I own plenty of property in the States. What's the ROI world in other countries? Man, that's hard. This is not an easy conversation. This is where a lot of my skill set comes from because I've done it. And so I can share those experiences with my team, my listeners, and the people that come into me. It's hard, to understand ROI in other countries. It's hard to understand, what's your goal? I mean, you have to start off also when you talk about buying property outside of America. What are your goals? I could say that right now, at least 25% of the people that are engaging me are talking about IRAs and 401ks. Because most people, and you may know this, but in case you don't, the IRS allows you to invest your IRA, your 401k, and all your retirement money in overseas properties. It's completely legal. I mean, did people know this? I can tell you from my experience, they don't. They don't know this, okay? Because nobody ever approaches them with this conversation. There's specific requirements the IRS requires. Okay, so that's true for everything we're dealing with them, right? But it's a very good way to think about your IRA. It's a very good way to think about retirement, especially if you are thinking, I kind of don't want to keep all my money here, but I also want to be able to move around the world and maybe do it much less expensively than other people. And one of the ways you do that is if you own a piece of property somewhere. So if you got a condo in Italy or France, Panama, Belize, Costa Rica, you have a condo there or even a house. Well, you can do a lot of things with that. One, you can live in it if you want to check out of America completely, and some people do. No question about it. I can help you with the visa conversations on that because there's tourist visas and long-term visas and work visas, all kinds of visas for each country. But the vast majority of the people that I work with don't completely check out. The vast majority of them keep their property here or properties here, and then they buy something overseas, 1 or 2 or 3, and they go there 2-3 months a year. Then they bail. Then they go to the next country 2-3 months a year, which they own a property there. Or let's just say you had one property. You go there, you want to spend 6 months there, and then you want to rent it for 6 months a year. Very common. This is the way, and in every country has, and cities in those countries have their own rules on duration or Airbnb, Vacasa. And they have rules on that. That's my job, is to teach you so that you know what they are. But that's pretty common now in what I do. That's the people that come to me. They're very interested in using it during the year for certain time periods, right? And then renting it out the rest of the year. Now, of course, that all depends on which country you're talking about and what city in those countries, because some countries, especially in the Latin America, South America, Central America, that world, they have real rainy seasons. I mean, they're real, right? Panama, Belize, they're real. But that doesn't mean you don't want to stay there. It just means you go in knowing that. And you also acknowledge that, maybe I would not rent it as much during those seasons, right? You just to go in with a strategy as to what you want to do with it. I help you with all that. My team will help you. We'll walk you through that. What's the best places that interest you? Of course, it starts with you. What is your interest? I mean, that's not for me to tell you. That you'll tell me. And then I'll work with you and say, you sure that's what you're going to want to do? Have you been there? You ever experienced that? Do you read anything about it? Have you taken masterminds before? What research have you done on the country? Those kind of things. So we actively engage with you to teach you. You know, I would say half the people that come to us have an idea. They do. They've either been to that country or they think I would like to go there and I've thought about it and or I went on a cruise. Get a fair amount of those people. You know, get on a cruise and they stop for a day in Belize or Panama or France. And they go, oh yeah, I think I could go here. This would be cool. Then they have an interest to go back. So that happens too. I think that the most fun aspect for me is going with you. So go there, we get set up. Big part of my job is I have the relationships. That's why you're engaging us. That's why you're joining our groups, because we know the attorneys. I know them. We know the realtor people. We know the notaries. We know everybody you're gonna need to help find what you want to find, whatever that is, in whatever country that is. So we kind of do it full service that way. But I think, in today's economy, I think what's driving a lot of this interest also is in our world, in America in particular, you're seeing a lot of bad stuff. Okay. So, for example, banks closing. I mean, that worries everybody and creates fears. I can rattle off some headlines to you just from the last month that scare people. Chase closed 16,000 ATMs last week. Their system just shut down. Well, if you're going to an ATM and you need money for the weekend or that day, you don't got any. That kind of stuff is going on. Or they just said, sorry, we closed your account. That stuff is out there. It's happening. We're all seeing it every day. Well, a lot of people are like, wait a sec. I got to go to an environment that's not like this anymore. This is worrying too many people. Your IRA, the government's always talking about taking your IRA. It's not just the current government. There have been past administrations said the same thing. They want to take your IRA, give you like a 4% or 5% return, take it or leave it. Like that worries people. And it should worry you because you don't have control. And what I tell people is you want to live in a world, I want to live in a world where I control my own money, my own assets. No one's telling me what to do with it. Follow the rules and then get going. Take control back of your life. Take control. Diversify your assets. How do you diversify them? Well, if you stay in America, it's diversified here with all the same problems I just said. And there's many more I'm alluding to that you're aware of. Look around, read a newspaper, pick up the internet. You should be concerned. I'm concerned. Can you check out of here and go live somewhere else? Yeah. Can you buy something there that you'd like? Yeah. Can you have a lifestyle that comports to what you want, not what someone else is telling you should want? Yeah. Can you do it for a reasonable price? Yep. Yep. Do you have to be some expert in real estate to successfully accomplish this? No. Do you have to be an MBA? No. Do you have to have traveled the world? No. You have to be smart. It's your money. Don't let anybody else tell you what to do with it. I'm here to give you suggestions. I'm here. The reason why I started this company that we're launching is that I'm going to show you the different ways to use your money in international real estate. Then you decide what interests you. Not my decision. I'll help you figure it out together. But it's going to be really good. It's be healthy. And I think that, anytime you can, what I call, there's a phraseology that I used as a lawyer, and I've used it most of my life, and it's this. You need to learn how to, quote, recalibrate your mindset, end quote. What do I mean by that? Stop thinking like everybody else thinks. Stop thinking that it has to, I can only invest in what, Wall Street tells me I can invest in. I got my stock and bonds portfolio. I bought a little gold. I bought a little silver. Maybe I'll dabble in crypto or Bitcoin. You know what? Go do all that stuff. It doesn't impact me. Do it. But don't close your mind off to other investments that could be safer, better, and more fun. And that's international real estate. I mean, one of the things that I really love about traveling, and those of you that have traveled, I'm sure you'll experience this and agree with me. I like the local gig. I like the local event. I like hanging out with the people on the streets. I love that. Okay, so do you have to go out to a restaurant every night? No way. I'll go to the street vendors and I'll be perfectly fine breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was watching a video the other day, really is so reminiscent of what I've done in my life. It was a guy he was in Belize, in one of the San Pedro, in Belize, and he said, here's a video on living on $10 a day for your food. I've done it, and the food's fantastic. And every place he went to, I've been to those places, and they're all like what he said: $2, $4, $5.50 for 4 tacos. I mean, it's like that, and I love that. Going to other countries and living your best life. What is your best life? Well, you can decide that. I'll help you figure it out, but you tell me. This is what I think my best life is. What's that? I want to be on a beach. Oh, okay. Me too. I like that whole concept. I want to be in a city with lots of stuff going on, clubs. I want to be able to shop whenever I want, etc. Okay. Maybe that's not for me, but that's for you. Fine. I'm focused now. I'm thinking about what you want, and I can show you options in different countries for things like that. But I like the vibrancy. It's another good word. When you're going to buy something internationally, vibrant. What's going on around you the whole time? You like it? Do you like just to sit in a condo and sit on the beach and do nothing? Drink a beer, go to the street vendor, just hang out, sit by your pool? Fine. We'll find you something like that. It's just, and there's lots of it. So it's really fun to work with people because I already know the environments in these different countries, and I can help you think that through, whatever your interest is. So I think I just wanted to kind of give an overview of why I love what I do and why I started this company and why I'm launching it, because I think it's in high demand. People are looking to check out of the States. They're looking mentally, they're looking to get out and go do something else, whether it's politics or it's something else. It's like people are just fed up with being told what to do. And me, I'm one of them, but most of the people I know are like that. And it doesn't matter to me what spectrum you're on. This doesn't. Most people are tired of being told what to do. So do something about it. Take control of your life. And when I say recalibrate your mindset, what I'm really talking about is diversification of your portfolio. Look, you already got your stocks and bonds, your crypto. Great. I'm not telling you yes or no to any of that. That's not my job. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm the guy that says, okay, you got that. Now let's go look at something else that might interest you. Was international real estate. So that's where I'm coming from. I think that's a pretty good overview of how I think about things. So if that's okay, Nika, I'll turn it back over to you guys now. And anybody wants to throw some questions, let them go.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, it's fascinating. I love traveling to other countries, and more you do hear it in the circles and going out networking of people, getting even dual citizenships and buying in other countries. So yes, I have friends building Costa Rica, all over the place. So
Good.
very
That's
exciting.
great.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, since you brought that up, Nika, real quick. So for those of you interested in building, right? Because that's the same conversation, different facet of it. Okay. So I'd say probably 20, 25% of the people that I know that come to me are interested in building something. Now that's a good 75% that want to buy something that's just standing already. And for it depends on your age, really does. Whether you have the dynamic and the energy to do that. And every country is really different on building requirements, and more importantly, the timing. It's like, in the States, if some of our contractors say to us, that's going to take 3 weeks, we know it's going to take 6 weeks. We know it. So don't tell us. When I deal with a contractor, I usually say, how long? Okay, I'm going to double that. Oh no, Mike, you don't have to do that. Yeah, I do. And I don't care because I go in knowing that. In other countries, maybe, no, it's not 3 weeks, it's 6 months. Because they're on their own time. You guys have all heard that before.
Exactly.
Mexico, Belize, South America, they're on their own manana time. You have to know that going in because your patience level is what it is. You know what your patience level. But I'd say if you're going to build something, that's a lot more time intensive to analyze with me and then go there and look at the lay of the land, because we don't just rely upon realtors. I mean, and I do have them, but you don't just rely upon them. You got to go there and look. You
Right.
know, I mean, I almost bought a property one time. Turned out there was an alligator swamp very close, like way too close, like 50 yards. I'm like, do they ever like, don't they come out? Like, yeah, yeah, but we just ignore them. Like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to ignore them. I don't want to see them. Right. But that
Yeah, right.
happens. That happens. I mean, I was swimming in a
Yeah.
lake in Panama, and one of the guides said, Mike, you don't really want to do that because we know there's alligators over on the other side. And really, in this lake? Yeah, great. I think I'll get out of this right now. I mean, but
No,
that's the kind
right.
of thing you got to think about. Okay, enough alligator stories. Go ahead.
Okay. It looks like that we have Donna who would like to ask a question.
Great.
Hi, Michael. Thank you very much for bringing this topic to me. I'm with Nika. I love to travel, have traveled all over the world. In fact, I went around the world once
Wow.
just because I could.
Exciting.
But I've never considered owning property or investing in real estate in other countries. And I know that I don't know what I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
so where would be a place to start to become knowledgeable? And then what would you say would be your top 3 starter companies or countries like to look at that real estate friendly for American investors?
Okay, John, before I answer that question, I have to ask you one question.
Yes.
Are you asking me these questions along the lines of you want it for the ROI and cash flow, or because you're going to use it all the time, or no, never? What's your thought process?
Both, primarily investment, but I would probably visit it.
Okay, because that every country's different on how much time you can spend there, or not spend there. Yeah, my top 3 are going to be this: Belize, and Panama are always be 1 and 2. Costa Rica and Portugal are going to be in the top 5 always to me too. But then there's other countries, like Australia. It's just they're too far away from me. Okay, I just don't like a lot of the politics there. So I tend to those 4 or 5 I give you. The reason why I like them, besides everything you can imagine about them, and you might have visited some of them, is government. I didn't bring this up a couple of minutes ago, but I can tell you when you take my course, I teach you about the governments because you have to be realistic about that. I mean, you may have a beautiful beach in Jamaica. I'm not buying anything in Jamaica. There's no chance. Beautiful beach in Nicaragua. I'm not doing it because I know governments turn over, and I know when they turn over, it's not good for the expats. That's the way it is. So I'm a little risk averse as compared to averse. So I'm going to move away from things that I think might be risky for you. You may be in love with the beaches there, and I don't, and I have been. But if I'm going to buy something and put dollars into it, I really got to balance the risk and the benefits. It's critical. I mean, you have to do it, and it's hard to do it unless you're on the ground. And unless you have people on the ground, unless you understand the government agendas, and let's be candid, you can't know all the government agendas, but you certainly can see government agendas based on things they do. Like, for example, I had a client of mine that was buying property in Costa Rica. Now, when he was buying that property, he was buying land at the beach. The Hilton, I think it was Hilton or Marriott, one of the bigger ones, had already committed to build this big, beautiful resort out there. So he said, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go buy a land cheaper, not as big as that, and I'm maybe close enough where you can walk down the beach from them to us, and I'll get all that flow of people. I can see I'm near the Hilton or I'm near the Marriott. He had a good strategy there. So what happened was he bought it. He paid $6 million for the land. Waited and waited, and that resort never got built. And while he was, for whatever reasons those were, I wasn't part of any of that litigation, but I know it didn't get built. And as time went on, squatters came in because he wasn't building. He had beautiful beach land, wasn't building anything. over about a couple years, squatters took over the entire beach and claimed it as their own. He then went back to Costa Rica and saw 500,000 people living on his beach. Yeah, he hadn't been there in a couple years because he was waiting for that resort to get built. And so he gets a lawyer, Costa Rica, goes to their they call their court system, which is just a joke because it's not. Okay, as much as I complain about our court system here, and I do complain, it's not like there. These are really bad. I would never want to be involved in litigation in some of these countries. He went there, and the squatters had a lawyer, and they had a union. Yeah, union. They unionized, whatever that even means there. I can't tell you, but they did. They showed up, and the judge said that they've been there for 2 years. They own the land. But goodbye. See you later. Come on. Real story. Really happened, and it does happen.
See,
Okay.
that's why people have the fear of other countries. Where
No,
they say
that's a construction
their land
resort.
can be taken away from them.
That's a
Yeah.
construction resort case. So it's a little different than some of the other things we'll talk about. But here's the
Okay.
point. But Nika, here's the point. Okay. Know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Hire the right law firm, hire the right people that know. We do this stuff. We'll figure it out for you. Okay. Don't just believe people. Don't just go in and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy that land and I'll build in the next 2 years. Maybe they have squatter laws. Do you know what the squatter laws are? No, unless somebody tells you. Okay, so that's a good experience to learn how you don't do things and why other countries have certain risks. Now, I'm sure it doesn't happen that much anymore because Costa Rica realized that was killing their tourism. They realized it. They got a lot of bad rep out of that because I would just give you one example. There was a lot of examples like that in Costa Rica. And finally, I think the government just shut down and said no more squatters on land, or we're not going to give them rights. I mean, there's still some squatting for sure, but that's more in the jungle areas, not the beach areas. Okay, anyway, John, did that help you?
Yes, but I have a couple more questions. So I'm not real clear on the services you provide. You have an education program. You have, are you licensed to practice law in multiple countries?
Okay, that's 2 questions. Do you have another one?
Yeah, and then it sounds like you also have some real estate services or connections to a network. And then the question from the network is, are there networks of investors investing in international specific countries? What's out there?
Okay, no, the answer is no to the last thing you said. There's no REITs going on internationally. I've thought about creating one myself, but there really isn't any ones I've ever seen. I know groups of investors, because they're clients of mine or their friends or they're people I've met around the world, but I don't know of any REITs of that nature. Okay, I practice law. I've practiced in over 10 countries, to answer your question. Every country is different as to the law. I don't need to be a lawyer. I'm not even giving you legal services. This is strictly educational. Okay, I mean, unless you need legal services, that's just not an issue for me. Okay, and you don't have to have a specific license to go do advice in another country. I've got licenses. I've done them in other countries, but I was doing litigation. So when you do litigation, you have to have certain licenses. So I got them in those countries that I litigated cases on. As far as services that we're doing, okay, let's Peggy kind of already knew this. Let me just give you a little bit of background. So when I decided I was going to create this educational company, what I was intending to do, and I'm doing, is provide a mastermind course. And that course is going to be 10, 12 hours of me over 150, 200 topics, a lot, teaching you A to Z of buying international real estate. So that's a course. That's something you would take at your own time because it's a mastermind. Okay. And when you take that course, at the end of that course, you of course, can go do it on your own if you want to do it. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could, or you're going to engage my team. And my team would be people in those countries that I already work with. And so their prices are already set. I mean, realtors are realtors, they charge really 3%, 4%, whatever they charge. It's not much. Notaries charge what they charge. Lawyers, they're charged what they charge. I oversee all of it. So yeah, I'm always holding your hand per se. but I know those people personally. So I've already worked with them. I know them. I trust them. And that's why I'm telling you, you should use these people. You don't have to use your own people, but that makes no sense to me because I've already set it up for you. So that's the program. So the education's education, services is services, right? They're different, but they go together. If that helps you understand that.
Sure. And then are there advantages, financial advantages, tax disadvantages to investing internationally? Are there any redundant taxes or tax shelter type things?
Okay, let's be clear on taxes. I'm not a tax accountant or a tax lawyer, though I do refer you to the appropriate people that are, but I got enough experience to shed a little bit of wisdom on that. Okay, so the first thing to remember is every country has their own tax base, right? And every country also decides whether you owe taxes or not. The vast majority of countries that I've dealt with don't, if you're making your money from outside the country, let's say it was income, John, as compared to real estate, straight up, it's income, some kind of work, they don't tax you for that. Actually made it outside of the country. As far as real estate taxes, they all charge that. And it's pretty small. And so you don't really worry about that at all. I think that you have to think about taxes in the States. The only taxes, if you bought a piece of real estate in another country, the only taxes you would owe is on the income, nothing else. So you file your tax documents, you declare the income, and that's it. It's part of your general income. So that's that as far as taxes. Within that country, if you had to pay taxes in the country for whatever that was, it's usually reciprocal with the U.S. government. Now we can look at it. I mean, I can refer you to the tax guys, and you might have your own accountant. It's usually reciprocal. If you pay there, it's reduced here. That's the norm. So unless it's something unique, I mean, that's how it normally would work. So there's not anything, you can set up different shelters and different LLCs, et cetera, foundations, people do that all the time. That's not really whether you're buying real estate conversation. That's a conversation of whether that foundation or LLC has its own tax issues with the U.S. government. It doesn't matter what you're buying. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Is it income? That's what matters. Is it income? And if it is, you got a discussion to have there.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, but I thought that some of the countries charge you to even be able to buy something there. They have fees,
Good
though,
point.
right?
Good, very good point, Mika. Yes, that is pretty common, but it also is usually pretty low. Okay,
Yeah.
so what you're referring to, look at it this way, is a reverse capital gains tax. Because that's what it is. And that's what I tell people. And they go, what does that even mean? You haven't sold anything. Right. You're buying it. It's a reverse capital gains tax. So I'll give you an example. In Belize, you pay the government 8% up front on the gross price. But then your taxes the rest of your life there are so tiny you don't even talk about it. Got it? It's like $100, $200. It's really low. So you kind of say, well, that's just longevity. I'm just paying for it now and not later. Okay. Now there is a secret there. I'm going to give it to you guys. I'm going to give it to you, even though it's in my educational platform. I'm going to give it to you, and it's a really important one. A lot of times, if you buy a piece of real estate in another country that has that reverse capital gains tax, that has that. By the way, that's just what I call it. Nobody else calls it that, but I know it makes sense to everybody. When you do that, it only applies if you buy it in your own name. Getting back to John's question, if you buy it in a corporate name, that tax wouldn't apply. Now, there might be another tax, but it's not going to be 8%. And then, of course, what matters is, did the person you buy it from have it in a corporate name to begin with? Because guess what? If they did, they already paid the 8%. you can negotiate that deal with them, make them absorb it. That's a big savings. You buy a property for $300,000, you got a $24,000 tax up front, and the guy that bought that property and has it in a corporate name, for example, he's going to say to you, look, I already paid the $24,000 5 years ago, 10 years ago. When I bought this, you got to reimburse me. And you can say, no, absorb it. If he wants to sell that place, he's going to absorb it. You're $24,000 ahead. You haven't even closed the deed yet. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty sexy way to save money. And most people, I'm a pretty fair guy. So, usually if it's, for my clients, but I mean, if somebody, in that example I just gave you, if somebody said, look, Mike, I got 24,000 in this already, you got to give me something. I'd say, how about some free legal advice? Don't do it again. I'm not kidding. Okay. So I would say, okay, maybe, here's $5,000. Because I would say, okay, I know I'm getting a really good deal. Okay. So I might do something like that. That's up to you guys. But just that's an example, because you find that in every country in one way or another. They're going to try and hit you up with a tax somewhere. You need to know going in, and that's when you take my course, you learn this stuff. Okay. You sit down and you read it and you see it and you go, okay, let's figure out what's the best way to save money here. And then you got to balance that with the income you're making from it too. You got to think about that. Your cash flow.
So we have some questions in the chat. One of the questions is, do you service all countries?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say, what do we have? 140 countries? No. I'd say I have to be honest. No. There's a top 10 that I work
Tanzania.
Yeah, I might not do that one, though. Afghanistan's not on top of my list.
Countries.
What, Ted?
There's a little over 200 countries.
200 countries.
Club claims
Okay.
have clubs in 204 different countries.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So people don't generally come into me like that, because when you go into, you guys probably all know what funnels are, right? When you sign up to go into to see what the course is about, I ask you, what's your country of interest? Let me know. If you don't have one or you haven't thought about it, that's cool. But if you do have one, tell me. So by the time you get through the signing up the funnel process, I know what your interest is already. And I could say, there's 20 that I would see a lot. I would see that. But there's 10, you see a lot. So that helps you understand. So
Yeah.
And I would tell you also, if I think that's a bad idea you're making, I might say, you know what? I don't think you should do that. I don't want to go there with you, and I don't want to go make the effort for you and have to charge you to go do that. And I really think it's a bad idea. So I'd walk away. Now, I would personally walk away. So I don't think you should do that.
So the next question is from Tina. Do you want to come off mute, or do you want me to ask it? Ted has a question, and then Jamila has another one afterwards. Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, Michael, why did you choose the education business alternative over brokerage?
Well, I'm not a real estate broker. I'm still an attorney, right? So I didn't have an interest in ever being a broker. That never interested me. And I'm retired. So from my retirement point of view, to be candid with you, I always knew, going back 15 years, I always knew that if I want to have the right kind of retirement for me, I want to have a strong passive income. That's how I always looked at it. Okay. And so I knew there was two ways to do that. And one was real estate, and hopefully you do it correctly. And two is publishing and education. So I did both. And so I just decided now was the time that I was retired. I'm not taking any new law clients. That part of it is I'm done. I was a trial lawyer for 25 years. Okay, I'm not doing any of that. Okay, but I'll consult, but I'm not doing any of that stuff anymore. So I have the time, Ted. That's why. And I like education a lot, because if I can help better out your thinking process, make you think differently about what's best in your life, I'm happy. I can help you do that.
Thank you. Yes, it is fun educating. So Jamila's question is, can she use your services without having to buy the education?
Depends on what the services would be. Okay, and let me give you a really good example of that. My normal hourly rate when I was charging as an attorney was $750 to $1,000 per hour. My retainers were, fairly high because I'm one of the only guys that does what I do. And in this, I am the only guy that's doing this. If you go on the internet, you won't find a person that's put together a mastermind course on something like this. Jamila, if I told you you're gonna buy 10, 12 hours of my time as a lawyer plus other costs versus you just buy the course and you learn everything much more than I could just individually teach you, you might say to yourself, it's cheaper to buy the course because I don't have the time to do all that's in the course to break that down for you every day. It'd be hard to do that for me and not charge you a lot of money. I'd rather not do that. I mean, but if you wanted to ask me, could you consult with me, and put a limited amount of time on that, I'd say yes to you. Okay,
thank you.
but it would, yeah, you're welcome. But it would, yeah, because you're here, because you're part of this group. But don't tell anybody that. It's just for you. I'm not, because you're in this group. I would say yes to you, and so you and I could just sit down and you're welcome. We could just sit down and say,
it sounded like you had the people to do like the legal and the notary and all that kind of stuff. That's really where I was going. If I found the house and my girlfriend lives over there and I found a place in Barcelona that was next to my girlfriend's and I just needed to go through the legal, I wanted to have somebody on my team to follow that through. So you're saying that would be worth more than 15,000?
no,
No.
That's not what I was saying. Okay. And now that you explain that to me, that I can give you a really easy answer. I could give you for $7,500 probably, I could give you a due diligence package. See, because the due diligence package would be just for Barcelona. It wouldn't be for anywhere else. So you'd focus my time and I'd focus my time. And I would just do that for you. I'm not going to say absolutely yes right now, but that's probably what I'd be willing to do with you, something along those lines.
Okay, got it. And did I understand correctly that you can't do a exchange to avoid the capital gains overseas, right? Imagine.
You mean 1031?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Unfortunately, yeah, actually, I didn't say that. That's a great question. I didn't bring that up. Yes, you cannot. You cannot. I know. I've been begging. I'm watching the IRS. I'm thinking, God, I wish they would let us do that. But the reason why they don't, as you can imagine, is you can't control that sale. I mean, the broker over there isn't going to account to the IRS. That's not going to happen. I mean, there's no 1099 world in Central America. I mean, there is FATCA and stuff, but that's more banking. Nobody's asked me about banking yet. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And
healthcare. Healthcare.
And healthcare is a big deal. Right. And every country has their own, goods and bad, every one of them. But I can tell you what the vast majority of people our age, my age, are doing is they're dumping B. They don't buy it. They look because they're happy with the local healthcare in the countries that they go to. Like
they're dumping what? They're dumping what? I didn't understand what you said.
Medicare B.
Medicare Part B.
D. Okay.
B. Boy.
B.
Boy. Right.
You're not old enough to know about that yet.
I'm only 64, but I still know because I get asked those questions a lot. Because a lot of people are like, the healthcare in Central America and the countries that I deal with, it's pretty good. I mean, Panama's got all American hospitals. They're American doctors and surgeons. You don't need to go anywhere. They have everything. Belize is a little less of that, but still very good care. You'd fly to Miami if you had any kind of real issue, which is close enough. But then you look at Ecuador and you look at some other places and you think, that healthcare may be cheap, but I'm not 100% sure I'd be happy with it. I mean, but you got to do the due diligence, which is my point. Because in the due diligence plan, we do a healthcare section. And you can decide what you
Nice.
want. Yeah, I mean,
You don't have to
I
have a
don't-
citizen, like a dual citizenship to get the healthcare there. As long as you own a house, then you can get the healthcare.
okay, let's move to that subject. It exists if each country is different. Ireland's different, Spain's different. If your parents or grandparents are born there, you usually can get it. Okay,
Mm.
but I don't know that you want it. It makes you liable for taxes in two countries.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be smart about that. I mean, it depends on where you're getting the dual citizenship. And it really doesn't impact you here. To be honest with you, the people that I know that have that do it so they can travel as non-Americans. To be honest, that is why they do it. And healthcare. And healthcare is the other reason. Because they get local healthcare, it doesn't cost them anything. But the reality is, if you go to Panama, it's like it's so cheap that if you I had a friend of mine there, he lives there full time. He's like, he had 10 doctor visits last year, he paid $300. The whole year. And I mean, state of the art equipment, not full MRIs, same thing we have here. I mean, they have everything. It's
What
really
country was
out
that?
there. Yeah, it's beautiful, actually.
What country was that in?
Panama.
Panama. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
hearing that Panama is the place now.
Panama is in my top two, always.
But Panama had so much crime when I was there.
Well, yeah, but
They
how long ago are we talking about?
Like 6 years ago, they told me I couldn't even get out. The taxi cab driver reached across the seat to lock my door while we were driving. And they told me I couldn't go to like the ATMs and that, I couldn't travel alone. I was like,
Where were you in Panama? I've never heard that before.
the main city.
I've been there for 17 years. I've never had any issue ever. And I have a zillion clients and friends there. It's the safest city I've been in a long time. I don't know why that taxi driver told you that.
I can
And-
tell
and
you
the
some
thing-
crazy stories of Barcelona too, Jamila, that happened to me. So
So true.
Yeah,
And-
well, you know
and-
what? Also, you can go on the State Department website and you can go look up crime statistics in every country.
no.
That can, that you got to take that with a little bit of grain of salt, but you can still look at it. I mean, I was in so many countries. It's like Switzerland. It's like no crime, but they just take your money. That's another story.
If you listen to the news in Chicago, that there's 15 or 20 incidents every night, but I've been living here for more than 50 years and I've never encountered anything.
Yeah. Right.
Where? 10?
Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Well,
If you listen to the news, there's 15 or 20
yeah.
incidents every night.
Yeah. Please, I'm
Right.
from Houston, Texas, and I mean, it was still a rough city.
I'm sure you have the same thing down there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't live there now, but I'm just saying, it's just like, and Ethan lives there. He can tell you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ted. I don't know if you're raising your hand.
Another fun, for me, it's a fun question. I mean, how much money laundering do you encounter in international real estate transactions?
None that I know of, or I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't be for me. I mean, so Ted, if you came to me and you said, Mike, okay, I want to go buy a house in Belize, there's no money laundering associated with that. I mean, it's just buy a house.
Well, I'm thinking about, for example, the drug dealers and such as that prostitution that basically collect a lot of cash and the banks won't take it.
I would say
You can't open a bank account with that.
Well, you
at
have
least in the States.
Yeah, you have cartel influence in Mexico and places like that, but not really in any places I go to. I mean, if you did, you'd hear the banks are having legal issues. That's how you would know. Like, look at the Panama Papers, okay? Because that was 15, 17 years ago. And that was bad. That was really bad. But that was orchestrated by that big law firm, they were working with the corrupt government. Okay, that corrupt people. So yeah, that happened for sure. But then they shut that down completely. I mean, now it's like, it'd be hard to do anything like that today in that country.
Yeah,
the laws.
It's been a joke for years. We got the best government money can buy.
Yep. You're not getting any argument out of me. But I haven't encountered any of that. I mean, I guess if you're dealing with, hundreds of millions of dollars, I mean, I guess you'd see that, but I'm more in the million and two in that world and under, not that kind of money. So
Actually, probably it's like it's being wired from an American bank. It's not like someone showing up at your house going, "Here's a suitcase,"
no, it's both.
Okay.
It's both. People do show up with the cash. Well, where you see that.
Oh,
Okay, let me give you an example. Where you see that, like in a country like Panama, is Venezuelans because they're fleeing their country. They
Yeah.
show up in planes of cash, not suitcases of cash. But the
Wow.
banks are very leery. They won't necessarily take it. I mean, it's tight now. It's much tighter than it ever was. I mean, so yeah, but I just haven't experienced any of that. I've experienced that here in San Diego, but I haven't experienced it over there anywhere. I've got some crazy clients, but that's the way that goes.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. So does anyone else have any other questions before I close out the recording? It's been fascinating. No? I can close it and then maybe you might want to ask a question. But so I'm going to go ahead and close out the recording. We really appreciate it. Stay on, Michael. We just like to close the recording. And we appreciate you being here, and this has been really fun and exciting. I'm very excited that I got to be a part of the one that
Great, thank you.
talking about international real estate. So here we go.